What if I told you that while Europe was stumbling through the Dark Ages, African kingdoms were performing complex brain surgeries, building universities that attracted scholars from around the world, and creating wealth so vast that a single ruler's pilgrimage crashed the gold market for an entire decade? Long before European colonization, Africa thrived as a tapestry of powerful kingdoms, vibrant cultures, and advanced civilizations. From the scholarly city of Timbuktu, where knowledge was treasured, to the majestic walls of Great Zimbabwe, innovation and artistry flourished. Trade routes stretched across the Sahara, connecting distant peoples and ideas. African societies developed intricate systems of governance, mathematics, and architecture. This golden age reveals a continent rich in history, resilience, and achievement, far beyond the narrow lens of colonial narratives. The story you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about pre-colonial Africa. This isn't the narrative of a primitive continent waiting to be civilized. This is the epic tale of sophisticated civilizations that would make ancient Rome envious, technological innovations that Europe wouldn't achieve for centuries, and economic powerhouses that controlled global trade routes. The kingdom that made Mansa Musa richer than Jeff Bezos. Picture this. It's 1324, and a man named Mansa Musa is embarking on a pilgrimage to Mecca. But this isn't just any journey. It's the most expensive road trip in human history. The ruler of the Mali Empire traveled with a caravan of 60,000 people, including 12,000 slaves, each carrying 4 pounds of gold bars. His personal escort consisted of 500 slaves, each bearing a 6-pound golden staff. When Musa reached Cairo, he distributed so much gold that the precious metal's value plummeted by 10–25% and didn't recover for a decade. Adjusted for inflation and purchasing power, Mansa Musa's wealth would dwarf that of today's richest individuals. We're talking about a net worth that historians estimate at $400 billion in today's money. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. Mali wasn't even the richest African kingdom of its time. The Mali Empire controlled the gold mines of Bambouk and Bouré, along with the salt mines of Tagaza, both more valuable than oil reserves today. Their capital, Timbuktu, wasn't just a trading post. It was an intellectual powerhouse housing the University of Sankore, which had a library containing over 700,000 manuscripts. While European universities were just beginning to emerge, Sankore was already hosting over 25,000 students studying everything from astronomy to Islamic law, the medical miracle that Europe couldn't imagine. But wait, here's where the story takes an incredible turn that will leave you questioning everything you learned in history class. In the Kingdom of Kush, specifically in the ancient city of Meroe, surgeons were performing successful cataract operations, kidney stone removals, and even brain surgeries, procedures that European physicians wouldn't master for another 1,000 years. Archaeological evidence from Nubian burial sites reveals surgical instruments so sophisticated that modern doctors are impressed by their precision. The Kushites weren't just medical pioneers, they were metallurgical masters. They produced steel through advanced smelting techniques that generated temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to create weapons and tools that were superior to anything produced in Europe at the time. Their iron production was so advanced that Meroe became known as the Birmingham of Africa, with archaeological sites revealing massive slag heaps from industrial-scale iron production. Meanwhile, in Ethiopia, the Kingdom of Aksum was carving 100-foot-tall obelisks from single blocks of granite, engineering marvels that required mathematical precision and technological sophistication that wouldn't be seen elsewhere for centuries. The largest of these obelisks weighed over 500 tons, making it heavier than any structure the Romans ever erected. The trade networks that connected 3 continents. The economic sophistication of pre-colonial Africa extended far beyond individual kingdoms. The trans-Saharan trade routes formed the world's first truly global economy, connecting sub-Saharan Africa with North Africa, the Middle East, and even China. Gold, salt, ivory, and slaves moved north, while horses, textiles, books, and manufactured goods flowed south. The Swahili coast operated a maritime trade network that stretched from Mozambique to Somalia, connecting Africa with India, Persia, and the Far East. Archaeological excavations in Great Zimbabwe have uncovered Chinese porcelain, Persian glassware, and Indian beads, evidence of a trade network more extensive than anything Europe could imagine at the time. These weren't simple barter systems. African kingdoms had developed complex banking systems, standardized weights and measures, and even early forms of credit. The Hausa states in what is now Nigeria operated sophisticated commercial networks with formal contracts, business partnerships, and credit arrangements that facilitated long-distance trade. The architectural wonders. Hidden in plain sight. Great Zimbabwe, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, stands as perhaps Africa's most impressive architectural achievement. This massive stone city, constructed without mortar, housed over 18,000 people at its peak. The engineering required to build its iconic curved walls, some reaching 36 feet high, demonstrates mathematical and architectural knowledge that rivals anything built in medieval Europe. But Great Zimbabwe wasn't unique. The rock churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia, carved directly into volcanic rock in the 12th century, represent some of the most ambitious architectural projects in human history. The Church of St. George, carved from a single block of stone and extending 40 feet underground, required engineering precision that modern architects still struggle to comprehend. In West Africa, the Great Mosque of Djenné, originally built in the 13th century, showcased advanced understanding of desert architecture, with features designed to maintain cool temperatures and structural integrity in harsh climates, knowledge that European architects wouldn't develop until much later. The political systems that predated democracy. Here's perhaps the most shocking revelation of all. While Europe languished under absolute monarchies, African societies were experimenting with democratic governance, constitutional monarchies, and complex federal systems. The Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria operated a republican system called Igbo Enwe Eze, Igbo have no kings, where decisions were made through village assemblies and age-grade systems. This wasn't anarchy, it was a sophisticated form of direct democracy that ensured community participation in governance. The Buganda Kingdom in present-day Uganda operated under a constitutional monarchy where the Kabaka, king, ruled alongside a parliament called the Lukiikoso. The kingdom was divided into counties, each with its own chief, creating a federal system that balanced central authority with local autonomy. Even more remarkably, many African societies had developed systems of checks and balances. In the Yoruba kingdoms, the Oba, king, was balanced by the Ogboni society, which could remove a ruler who abused power. This system of institutional constraints on royal power wouldn't emerge in Europe until the Enlightenment, the technological innovations that changed the world. African innovations that we take for granted today include advanced agricultural techniques like terracing and irrigation systems in Ethiopia that are still in use today. The Maasai developed veterinary practices that kept their cattle healthy in challenging environments, while the Shona people created sophisticated mining techniques that extracted gold from deep underground shafts. Perhaps most importantly, Africa gave the world iron smelting, mathematical concepts adopted by Arab scholars, and medical knowledge that saved countless lives. The University of Timbuktu's medical school produced physicians whose surgical techniques were centuries ahead of their European counterparts. The truth that changes everything. So why don't we know these stories? Why have textbooks reduced the richness of pre-colonial Africa to simple tribal societies waiting for European civilization? The answer lies in the systematic erasure of African achievements to justify colonial exploitation. It was easier to claim moral authority for colonization if Africa was portrayed as backward and primitive. But the archaeological evidence, the surviving manuscripts, and the oral histories tell a different story, one of sophisticated civilizations that were the envy of their medieval world. Pre-colonial Africa wasn't just advanced for its time. In many ways, it was ahead of its time. From Mansa Musa's economic empire to the surgical precision of Kushite medicine, from the democratic innovations of the Igbo to the architectural marvels of Great Zimbabwe, Africa was home to some of humanity's greatest achievements. The next time someone mentions African civilization, remember, they're talking about kingdoms that made European monarchies look modest, medical advances that Europe wouldn't achieve for centuries, and democratic innovations that predated the Magna Carta. This is the Africa that colonization sought to erase. But the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply it's buried. The real question isn't how advanced Africa was before colonization. It's how much further advanced the entire world might be if these civilizations had been allowed to continue their remarkable trajectory of innovation and growth.